as she said, the Centers for Spiritual Living. And we have a theme this year. And our theme is a world that works for everyone. So a world that works for everyone is what we've been talking about all year in our congregation. And I think it's a message that would fit anywhere that you go, to be around good people like yourselves. Because I know if you choose to get up on a beautiful fall morning and come into a place like this, you're looking to do something good in your life. We all want to do good things. And we often ask ourselves, what is mine to do? What is mine to do in the world? You know, it's human nature to want to do something. I don't know about you, but my mom used to say, don't just sit there, do something. Right? You can relate to that? Do something. And since we're good people, we want to do good things. We want to take actions in the world that make a difference. So we want to take conscious action. When I'm in conversation with clients, one-on-one, or I'm teaching a class, the question will often come up, what is my purpose? Laine, I'm doing this such and such a job, but I feel like I want to be doing my purpose. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but wondering, what am I here for? What am I supposed to do? We want to be acting appropriately to make a difference in the world. So, but is this in alignment with this new thought philosophy? Is this a part of our teaching? And I think it is. And so this morning I want to go over a 4-step process for you to consider as you look for ways to take conscious action in your lives. So before I get to the 4 steps, I want to define a word that you hear a lot about, but you might not have a working definition of, and that is consciousness. So around here, I bet you talk about raising your consciousness. Let's raise our consciousness. Let's work from the highest consciousness possible. So the word is thrown around. My definition of that is this. Consciousness is your awareness and your ability to choose. So when you think of an unconscious person, they have limited awareness and limited ability to choose. So when we are more conscious, in higher degrees, we're more aware of our own choosing, and therefore we can make better choices. So that definition leads me to the first step in a 4-step process of taking good action or conscious action in your life. So that first step is wake up. Wake up and stay awake. As we move through our lives, our jobs, our relationships, the problems that we seem to have, they tend to lull us into this robotic-like movement through our day where we're not aware that we're actually making choices. We don't realize that there are other choices to make. And so the first step in making good choices is to wake up and stay awake. Since you're here in this room, what I know is that your highest self, your soul, has called you forward to a place where you can wake up. Where you can wake up to the idea that you're a divine child of God. That you are empowered with this ability to create and to be a part of the creative process in your life. And if you've been around here for any amount of time, you know that you're always participating in the creative process. Every thought you think, every belief you hold on to, every choice you make, every emotion you feel, all of those are creative. I like to describe it this way. It's like you have an energy flow that's coming up out of you and going out into the universe, into the field of all possibility, and that energy flow magnetizes and attracts back to you the same kinds of energy that you are sending out. We're always participating in that creative giving and receiving, giving and receiving. We determine the strength or the ampage, I like to say, of that energy flow by our intention and our awareness. When we are fully awake, that energy flow is stronger and more focused on an idea. So we ask, what is mine to do? If I'm co-creating my life in every moment, I wonder if I can do that with greater awareness. And that leads to the second step in the process. The second step in the process is to listen. To listen. After we have awakened and we're aware that we're choosing, we need to listen. What are you listening to, and what are you listening for? You have to get an idea, a higher idea for your life. And this is where you go into receiving mode. The universe is always giving us, it's always giving to us ideas, insights, intuitive thoughts. It's always giving to us. And if we are paying attention and listening, they are ours for the taking. But we must listen and receive. And I'll tell you a secret. If you're listening to Spirit, Spirit is very quiet. So if you're moving through your day with tons of distractions, lots of people around you, music, conversations, screens of every size, little, big, we have screens around us all the time. We aren't listening to Spirit. We have to be reminded, and this is a spiritual community that reminds you. Marie was helping us listen. Whenever we go into meditation or prayer, we're listening. We're listening to what is the divine giving us. So perhaps you've been listening, and if we don't listen, then Spirit will nudge, and if we don't listen to the nudging, that old cosmic 2x4 will come out. And so perhaps you've been listening, or you've been hit with the cosmic 2x4, but you have an idea. You have a higher idea for your life right now, I guarantee it, because you're breathing. If you're still breathing, you still have a higher idea for your life. Perhaps you're in a stagnant relationship, and your Spirit's moving you and kind of nudging you out of that. Perhaps it's a job or a situation in your life that's no longer feeding you. Perhaps you feel like your financial life needs more intention or awareness, or maybe it's your physical health. I guarantee something is in your mind. So I want you to get in your mind that higher idea that you have for your life as we walk through the next two steps. Because the next step, after we're awake and after we've listened to something, the next step is to choose. Is to choose that higher idea. As new thought people, as metaphysicians, what we know is that the first part of choosing is prayer. Now, I don't really care what you come to a minister with, any of those things that you're wanting for your life. If you come to a minister, we're going to go into prayer, and we're going to probably encourage you to do that as well. Why is that? Because with affirmative prayer, we align ourselves with the power in the universe to focus on that particular idea that we have chosen. This is how we change our mind and know that this higher idea is who we are and what we wish to create. Prayer anchors that in. We are choosers, and when we've chosen and pray, we align the power behind our choice. Prayer is how that works. And so then that leads us to the fourth step, and the trickiest step. The fourth step of what is mine to do is to act as if. To act as if our higher idea was already so. We must know that our idea, this new idea we have for our life, is ever present, and allow our actions to consider this new idea in all that we do. Here's an important distinction. It's less a matter of choosing new actions to take, and more a matter of making sure that every action we do take considers this new idea. So think about the new idea you have for your life, and look at, are you aligning all of your actions to take that new idea into consideration? So our action to take is to continue to practice, and practice until we habitually create an environment that supports your new idea. Acting as if. That is a powerful, powerful part of creating our lives. And it's one of the questions I get the most. Laine, how do I act as if? I don't have that new house. I don't have that yet. How do I act as if? There's an important question to ask yourself. The question is this: how will you feel when your new idea is present in your life? How will you act and feel when your new idea is your experience? So think about your new idea. How will you act and feel when that is your life? What will I be doing differently when this new idea is mine? But the key to figure out is how you will feel. Will you feel more loved? Will you feel more energetic? Will you feel more happy? Will you feel more peaceful? What is the feeling that you will feel when your idea is yours? Here's the trick. These feelings are vibratory. And remember, I talked about earlier, we send that energy vibration out, and it returns to us experiences that match that. So when you feel loved, and you emit that out from you, then you get loving experiences in return. If you feel deprived, you're sending out a vibratory message of deprivation, and you get feelings and experiences of deprivation in return. When you're feeling confident, you return to yourself experiences that help you feel more confident. When you feel blessed, you attract blessings. Get it? And the idea is that if you're emitting those feelings that are a part of that new idea will also be attracted into your experience. Acting as if means to feel as if. To feel as if, and make choices and decisions that continue to move you toward the direction of your new idea. So here's an insight for you. Whatever word it was that you thought you would feel more of, it was a word that we used to describe the feeling of God. Whether it was love, or strength, or peace, or joy, or harmony, or abundance, all of those words we use to describe God. And here's the thing. God qualities are what I must choose to be and create. You can't buy them, you can't eat them, you can't relationship them, you can't get them out there. They have to come up from within you. And that's that acting as if part. Being that God quality now. And knowing that if I be it now, it will attract the experiences that support that in my life. So let me tell you a fun personal story that will illustrate this a little bit. I grew up in Colorado, and I went to elementary school there. And at my elementary school, we did a musical in the 5th grade. And it was called Let George Do It. It was about George Washington and early American history. And I thought, if we're going to do a musical about American history and early America, I want to be Betsy Ross. If we're going to be talking about that time of our history, surely we have to talk about the woman who made the flag, right? So I decided I want to be Betsy Ross. So sure enough, the list of characters came out that you could audition for, and Betsy Ross was there. I wanted to be Betsy Ross. I couldn't wait. When they posted it, I signed up. I want to be Betsy Ross. And so auditions happened, and it was a singing part, no less. A singing part. That was going to be exciting. And so we had to audition for it. And so Mr. Karras, who was our music teacher, posted the parts, and he read them out to the class. He was announcing the parts. George Washington's going to be so-and-so, Thomas Jefferson's going to be so-and-so, and Betsy Ross is going to be played by Lisa Goodman. Lisa Goodman. If you don't remember my name, it's Laine Morgan. It's not Lisa. That was my part. No. I got to play. I was assigned to play an Indian Indian corn dancer. Yes. So my job was to dress up like an ear of corn with all the other little ears of corn, and we were going to do a dance. Don't ask me what that has to do with George Washington. I have no idea. But I was an Indian corn dancer. So, rehearsal after rehearsal. And I'm sitting in the row with all the little ears of corn. And every time Betsy Ross, also known as Lisa Goodman, had to rehearse her part, I just silently sang along. I was like, couldn't believe it. Lisa. But, good little fifth grader that I was happy to be an Indian corn dancer. So, as it would be, the night before the very first show, Mr. Karras had an announcement to make. Lisa Goodman had come down with the flu, or something. I have no idea what happened to her. She had come down with something. And he asked, did anybody know her part? I couldn't have gotten out of that little corn seat fast enough. I know her part. I know it. And he was like, really? I mean, he was quite alarmed that someone else knew her part. I said, I know it. He's like, okay, cue up Betsy Ross music. Let's hear what this girl's got. I belted it. I was the best Betsy Ross ever. And he's like, okay, do you think your mom can come up with a Betsy Ross costume and lose this Indian corn thing? Absolutely. I'm sure my mother was thrilled. I just told her, don't sit there, do something. No, I'm kidding. So she made me a Betsy Ross costume and I became Betsy Ross. So, I realized in the 5th grade that I had to be careful what I asked for. I realized at some level that I could create something. Now, it would take me decades to figure that all out. But I did have this inkling that, oh, that's really weird. That's the part that I wanted, and that's the person that whatever happened to her, and I got that part. So it just was a wake up for me. So let me see if I can make that story fit the little 4 steps, because I told it for a purpose. So the first thing I had to do, the first step is to be awake and aware. I had to be aware that there was even going to be a play and see that it was a possibility for me. So that part of being awake and aware was there. I had to see the announcement. I didn't know my divinity per se, but I had to see it as an opportunity for myself. The second was that I had to listen to my intuition. So when I got a hit about Betsy Ross, I had to somehow believe that or move forward about this Betsy Ross idea that I had. Then I had to step forward and choose. Now, I didn't know anything about affirmative prayer or prayer at all. I probably would have been praying when I was sitting with the little Indian dancers, but I didn't know anything like that. But I had to choose. I had to sign up and for the part. I had to speak my word. I had to know that it was mine. And I had to also, if I know myself, I was probably telling everybody I was going to be Betsy Ross. I mean, I had to choose it. But the most important part was even when I didn't land the part, I had to act as if. I had to act as if. I had to keep learning the lines. I was probably singing in my hairbrush every night, you know, whatever that Betsy Ross song was. I had to ready myself for the fulfillment of my good, even when it didn't look like it was going to happen. I had to keep staying ready. And it's not enough to just know or understand or believe. We have to align our actions with the desire that we have. Even when the world seems to resist a little bit, we have to continue to know our good is ours. You know, I could have done something different. When I didn't get the part of Betsy Ross, I could have crossed my arms and said, well, then I'm not going to be in the play at all. Or, when Mr. Karras said Lisa Goodman was sick, I could have said, well, you should have picked me in the first place. But don't we have the tendency to do that? When we have something that we want in our lives, and we've put it out there, and it doesn't happen, we tend to go off in a little huff, and we don't act as if. We take the first barrier, the first obstacle, the first little no, and say, well, it must not have been God's will, or it must not be for me, or maybe I dreamed too big, or whatever. We don't tend to stay aligned with our choices, do we? So that's a big part. So, but what does all of this have to do with conscious action? Certainly there are bigger choices to make than playing Betsy Ross, right? So we know that we can make conscious action to make our lives better. We get that. We've been around this teaching enough, we know that. But how can we use these 4 steps to move ourselves forward and make a difference to the whole human race? Remember, I started with that. We're good people. We want to do something to make a difference. Let us never forget that we are part of the oneness of the human race. Let us never forget that. That's a core principle of unity, and it's a core principle of our teaching as well. We are all one. And so if we are creating for ourselves, we are really creating for the entire human race. Who we are is important. What we say, what we do is important to the good of all. Here's the thing, God doesn't care what you do. God cares who you are whenever you do whatever you do. God doesn't care what you do. God cares who you are doing whatever you do. We are a part of the human race and we contribute to race consciousness. In other words, everyone is creating as one human race. So each of us have a responsibility to the whole. That's core to know. What would happen if we consciously took action on behalf of the entire human race? If we actually lived those God qualities of love, joy, harmony, peace, if we lived that, we would emit that level of energy out into the universe, and the entire universe would vibrate at a higher level. You know, we look around the world and we watch the news and we get concerned. We get sometimes overwhelmed by everything we see going on, and we feel like we want to make a difference. But we're living here in this beautiful place and our relatively privileged lives, and we watch the world struggle with things like hunger and war and poverty and politics and homelessness and disease. How can we consciously create and make a difference that betters the world? What if we became spiritual activists? What would that look like? Do we have to quit our jobs and move to another country in order to make a difference? I don't think so. One of the things that I teach is this concept of the hula hoop. Everybody know what a hula hoop is? A little circle that you play with as a child. Well, as adults, we have hula hoops as well. And it's the world that we have influence around. And we are 100% responsible for what goes on in your hula hoop. You're 100% responsible for the spiritual atmosphere in your hula hoop. Whatever you want in the world, you must first create in your hula hoop. If you want peace out there in the world, you have to have peace in your hula hoop. If you want love, we must take a stand for love in our own environment. If we want the world to be generous, we must live generously inside our own lives. Here's a big one, I'm going to step on toes. If you want the world to not be so judgmental, you have to stop being judgmental in your own hula hoop. If we want the whole human race to take care of this beautiful planet, we have to do it in our own lives. So if we want to be a spiritual activist and make a difference in our lifetimes, we must choose to live as consciously as we possibly can. We must use our creative power for the highest good possible. We must speak our word on behalf of the entire human race. You know, there was a saying in my house when I grew up. My dad would say, "As for me and my house," can you finish it? "We will serve the Lord," right? So now that saying in my house is, "As for me and my house, we will serve the law, and we will manage our hula hoops. You know, we've been around, we've manifested parking places and partners and palaces. What if we went on and took our teaching even deeper and we manifested world peace and love and joy? What if we did that? We planted the seeds of consciousness that feed the entire universe. It's not our job to make it happen. It's our job to act as if it's happening right now in all that we do and see around us. That doesn't mean we sit and wait for God to do something. It means to act and know that as long as our actions align with our desires, both our personal desires and our universal desires, God is manifesting our greatest good in every moment. So what is mine to do, you ask? Take responsibility for your hula hoop. Take responsibility for your hula hoop. Each person who strives to become a light in the world helps everyone else. So today you're awake, I can tell. What do you hear as you listen today? What do you have conviction about today? Not only in your personal life, something personal, but what are you ready to choose in prayer and act as if for the entire world? What are you willing to feel inside yourself in order to draw that good to you? And is there something you're willing to take conscious action on for the oneness of all? Are you willing to allow Spirit to use you to move the human race toward a greater good? We have been taught that there's a power in the universe and we can use it. We're now at the point of saying, there is a power in the universe and it can use me. Use me, hula hoops and all. I invite you to be the light of the world with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good. So thank you, Laine. Thank you, Archie.
He was saying amen.
Amen, yeah.